Hello fellow coffee botherers, in this video we're going to be looking at this, the Goat Story Arco grinder. I've bought this isn't a freebie and it was given away via the blog. Unfortunately, because I'm really bad at timing, that giveaway happened before this video is going live. Oops. But to see what the current giveaway is, just go to coffeeblog.co.uk. Goat Story are a brand who've been around for a while now. The first product I came across of theirs was their very eccentric Goat Story mug. A goat horn shaped travel cup with a leather strap on it for attaching it to yourself, wearing it around your shoulder, etc. Interesting concept. Apart from the fact that they've named the brand after a myth, I like Goat Story. I think they're bringing out some cool, innovative products. What's that? Is the Goat Story explanation of the origins of coffee a myth? Gather round for story time with Coffee Kev. So, a goat herder noticed his goats had munched some berries and became energetic, so he gave the berries to a local monk who threw them in a fire in disgust and then thought, I think if I scoop up the ashy water and drink it, that might taste good. Yeah, whatever. If that story didn't already sound a bit iffy, just keep in mind that the very area this is supposed to have taken place is a place where the people had eaten these mysterious cherries for millennia at that point. The tribespeople who'd lived there for thousands of years had even made a form of energy ball by mixing them with animal fat and storing them in leather pouches to keep them full of energy on hunting and gathering trips. So this goat herder and this monk must have been living under a rock if they didn't know what these cherries were. Anyway, rant over. Getting back to the Arco, this is a 2-in-1 manual and electric coffee grinder. The idea is that instead of having two separate grinders, you use the same one manually when you want to use a manual grinder and electric when you want to use an electric grinder. It seems like a clever idea in various ways. If it performs anywhere nearly as good as they say it does, then you've got a really high quality manual grinder and a really high quality electric grinder in one package, capable of apparently great results for just about all brew methods including espresso. It uses 47mm conical steel burrs. It's a single doser grinder made for grinding up to 50 grams at a time, which is a big maximum dose for manual grinders. And it has a huge 240 grind settings, which Goat Story state will grind from as fine as Ibrick to as coarse as cold brew. So starting out with looks, I think this looks stunning. If you're someone who likes minimalist design, I think you'll probably like this. And the fact that it's both a manual and electric grinder in one, I think adds to the minimalist ethos, just owning one grinder instead of two. The only negative thing to say about that is that they've put all this thought into the design, but they've not given me anywhere to slot or store this, the handle. So I've got this amazing minimalist looking grinder on the kitchen worktop with a handle looking weird just next to it doing nothing. Or in a drawer where it'll get lost. Or even worse, thrown into the pan cupboard, which, as we all know, is the entry to another dimension. If you're looking for that pan lid or the colander, good luck. Interdimensional travel required. Just buy another one. I love the look and sound of the on-off. Forgot it was hot. I love the look and sound of the on-off toggle switch. That's very, very cool. The way the grinder fits onto the main body really quick and easy to lock and unlock, which is very helpful. I like the feel of the grinder itself. It's nearly all metal and the lid is metal too. Everything about this looks and feels really high quality, and I think it's really well thought out from a design perspective. The big maximum dose is really impressive. It's about the same as a Niche Zero. The grind settings are great. The fact that it has 240 grind settings is amazing, and I really like the external rotating adjustment and the system they've given us for knowing how many rotations we've made, so we know what setting we're on. Using the grinder in terms of grind distribution and cup quality is something I'm really impressed with. This grinder is not a gimmick by any stretch. If I'm being honest, that was my first thought when I first saw it. Goat Story haven't produced something like this before. It sounds too good to be true. You might think it's probably all bark and no bite, but it's really not. The cup quality is fantastic. Kyle Rousel has already done a video on this, talking a lot more about pour over and blind tasting pour over made with the Arco versus the Niche Zero and the Lagon Mini. That's a really good video. Click here to watch that, and if you don't follow Kyle, I'd recommend his videos. They really seem to have done a great job where performance is concerned. These burrs seem really good. When it comes to other things, there are some issues, but I don't think they're massive. There's only really one that I think is quite a big one, and that is the sound. It really doesn't sound great. It's not just loud, it's just not a nice sound either. So for that reason, personally, if we're comparing with the Niche Zero, I'd go with the Niche. It's quiet and I really like the sound of it, but that's a subjective thing, of course. This is one of the first units, so they may have addressed this in the meantime, so if this really puts you off, you might want to double check that. Another thing worth mentioning, and this is something I need to give Kyle Rosal credit for as he noticed this, is that while it may seem really clever that you can grind for the same brew method, electric or manual, without having to dial in your manual grinder separately, you kind of can, but not quite. Let me explain. Grinding with a motor versus manually changes things slightly and requires a slightly finer grind. It's not huge, but you'll find that if you're dialed in via electric, you'll probably have to go slightly more coarse when using it as a manual grinder. There's a bit of static when using it via electric. The spoon handle technique, or RDT, should help with that though, and it's far less when grinding manually. Retention, they say in the blurb that it's near zero. It's not huge, but there is some, and you have to give it a knock to get it out. I wouldn't say this is near zero. I suppose it's comparatively near zero. It's closer to zero than 100 or 10, but niche call the zero an almost zero retention grinder, and that's something like a point of a gram. The retention is bigger when using it as an electric grinder versus manual, by the way. Price-wise, the RRP is €550 at the moment, but they're currently selling it at $450. I don't know if that's one of them permanent special offers or whether that will change. That puts it very close to the price of the Niche Zero, in the UK at least. Actually, as I pledged for this during the Kickstarter campaign, I paid the early bird price. Yay! But I ended up getting stung for import duty. No! So it actually cost me more than the price of the Niche Zero. It doesn't look like there's any import duty to pay now from looking at their website, but the delivery cost into the UK is €25 and about €30 for the US at the moment. If we're looking at it purely as an electric grinder, I'd go for the Niche Zero over the Arco all day long. Sorry, Goat Story. The Arco is great as an electric grinder, but personally I think the Niche Zero is greater. It's much quieter, I prefer the grind adjustment, it's faster, there's almost no static and there's virtually no retention. As an electric grinder, it comes close in some of these areas, but it definitely doesn't come close where noise is concerned. If the 2-in-1 manual grinder feature is something that is important to you, then that might be something that would compel you to choose this over the Niche Zero. As a manual grinder only, this becomes very interesting because it's €210, and I think this is a heck of a lot of manual grinder for €210. I don't actually think most of the electric grinder competitors have all that much to worry about, but where manual grinders are concerned, I think this potentially competes very well against other premium manual grinders. And as a manual grinder, I don't really have any negative comments. It feels really nice to use, it has a great grinding range, it has the biggest maximum dose I think I've seen on a manual grinder, it's amazingly well built and it looks really cool. So there you go, that's what I think about the Goat Story Arco. If you have one, please let me know in the comments what you think of it. Apparently, an average yawn lasts 6 seconds. Well, that's a load of bollocks. Click the like button if I've just made you yawn. Thank you very much for watching, and if you love coffee and enjoyed this video, we've got tons of content about how to make better coffee at home to take you from beginner to home barista. We've got reviews and how-tos on the most popular machines. If you like the sound of that, click on my face to subscribe. Tatty bye!